Funny, cute lies, adorable lies, Instagram filter lies, because the real headline, the one her sister was seconds away from tattooing across the internet, was a whole different bomb. Stefon cheated first. Let that marinate. Let it sizzle. Let it burn the way her sister burned that IG live down to the algorithm ashes. Because when Cardi's sister hit go live, she didn't come to defend Cardi. She didn't come to clarify rumors. She came swinging with the confidence of someone who had the screenshot folder, the time stops, the receipts, and the group chat testimony ready like court evidence. So tell me, why was she laughing? Why was she mocking Stefon's loss like it was divine comedy? Why was she dragging him like she had been waiting months for this day? And most importantly, why did she say loud, clear, and unbothered that the breakup didn't start at the Super Bowl? Because according to her, according to the one woman who actually knows the truth, Cardi left because Stefon Diggs got caught first. Stay right here. This is where the story actually begins. She didn't walk into that relationship blindly. That's the part the internet still refuses to swallow. Cardi B knew exactly who Stefon Diggs was, what came with him. Hey, and what kind of chaos orbit always followed him like a personal weather system. And yet she tried. She genuinely tried. Snorts, because when a woman leaves a toxic marriage, rebuilds her self-respect from ground zero, and enters a new relationship, she doesn't walk in looking for red flags. She walks in looking for peace. And that's exactly what Cardi thought she'd found. That's exactly what he promised her. Calm, stability, respect, the bare minimum, packaged like a gift. But what she didn't expect was this. The pattern, the repetition, the dasha view of emotional whiplash she thought she left behind in 2024. The same excuses, the same stories, the same slippery behavior masked as misunderstandings, and the same kind of women popping up out of nowhere with the kind of confidence that only comes when a man gives them just enough hope to act entitled. That's the part people pretend they don't see. Because when Cardi walked into that stadium during Super Bowl weekend, she didn't walk in as a woman, confused. She walked in as a woman, done. Done emotionally, done mentally, done quietly. And her sister knew it. That's why her sister's laugh on IG Live hit the internet the way it did. That laugh wasn't petty. That laugh was relief. That laugh was finally you're out. It was the laugh of someone who had been biting her tongue for months, watching her sister shrink herself, watching her swallow disrespect, watching her ignore behaviors she would have roasted any other man for, because that's what families see. The slow unraveling, the subtle shifts, the way a woman's face changes when she starts second-guessing her worth. And Cardi had been doing that for months before she ever walked into that stadium. People keep acting like the baby mama drama was the issue, but that was just the fireworks that made the crowd look up. The real bomb had already gone off. And according to her sister, according to the people closest to her, according to the ones who watched the private unraveling long before the public one, the trigger wasn't the Super Bowl. The trigger happened way before that night. It started with the late-night messages he claimed were business. It started with the sudden phone flips, the sudden explanations, the sudden excuses that didn't match the timestamps. It started with the moments where he acted just guilty enough to be suspicious but not guilty enough to be caught. It started with the kind of behavior women feel before they see that sixth sense discomfort. And once you feel it, it's over. Your heart keeps going but your trust doesn't. And that's where Cardi was. Not angry, not sad, just done. Quietly done. Because done doesn't need noise. Done is silent. Done is clean. Done is cold. Done is final. That's what her sister meant when she said Cardi had already made her mind up before kickoff. She didn't just wake up and decide to leave. She had been leaving in pieces a little bit. Every time a story didn't add up. Every time he went missing emotionally but showed up online. Every time another baby mama pulled another stunt that looked a little too timed and a little too deliberate. And then there was Kiki, the wild card, the chaos coordinator, the one whose presence was always just messy enough to be suspicious. The one who popped up in the exact places Cardi was trying to avoid confrontation. The one who always seemed to know exactly where to be and when to appear. Snorts. The one who moved like she was trying to prove a point. And the point was always the same. I'm here because he lets me be. That's the sentence that haunted Cardi silently. Not because she feared Kiki, not because she felt threatened, but because it meant Stefon wasn't controlling his own situation. He wasn't putting boundaries where they needed to be. He wasn't protecting Cardi the way a man protects a woman he claims he wants a future with. And when a man fails to protect your peace, you stop protecting the relationship. That's why Christmas mattered. People think the holiday distance was nothing. But holidays reveal truth. Holidays expose priorities. And Cardi spending Christmas away from him wasn't a coincidence. It was the first visible crack, the first public clue. She kept her kids away from the chaos because a mother's instincts are louder than a girlfriend's hopes. And when a man can't even guarantee a peaceful family holiday, how will he guarantee a peaceful future? Every moment added up. Every stressful week. Every argument that ended with no answers. Every time he told her to ignore the blogs instead of addressing why the blogs had content to begin with. Every time he told her it was handled but it never was. Every time she had to deal with a woman inserting herself into a space that was supposed to be protected. Every time she saw similarities between Stefon and the man she had already left behind. That comparison is what finally killed it. Because once a woman starts seeing the same pattern in a new man that she suffered through in her old relationship, the new man becomes the old one with better branding. And Cardi didn't escape emotional chaos just to return to emotional chaos wearing a jersey. She saw the way Stefon handled his life or didn't handle it. And the resemblance was too close, too familiar, too painful. That's what her sister said without apology. That Stefon didn't cheat with bodies. He cheated with behavior, with patterns, with disrespect that came dressed as oversight. With chaos he refused to control, with women he didn't set boundaries, with situations he allowed to spiral because he lacked the discipline to protect the woman he claimed to love. That's the cheating her sister meant. It wasn't about who he touched. It was about who he allowed access, who he didn't block, who he didn't correct, who he didn't shut down. That's why she said he cheated first. Because cheating isn't just physical. Snort's cheating is emotional negligence. Cheating is disrespect. Cheating is leaving your partner exposed. Cheating is allowing your past to torment your present. Cheating is letting other women believe they still have a chance. Cheating is letting the world think your relationship is unclear. Cheating is allowing chaos to live inside the home you're supposed to protect. That's what broke Cardi. Not one moment, not one incident. A long, exhausting pattern of emotional carelessness disguised as busy schedules and misunderstandings. And by the time the Super Bowl arrived, she was over it. Completely over it. So when Kiki showed up, when the blogs picked it up, when the cameras zoomed in, it didn't destroy the relationship. Snorts, it just exposed what was already destroyed. The Super Bowl wasn't the reason she left. It was the final scene in a story whose ending had already been written. The stadium exit wasn't dramatic. It was closure. Clean, quiet closure. She didn't storm out. She didn't make a scene. She simply left. And when a woman leaves silently, that means she left emotionally weeks ago. That's the truth her sister knew. That's the truth she came to expose. And that truth is exactly where everything snapped. Music. And that truth is exactly where everything snapped. Because once her sister opened her mouth on live, the internet realized this wasn't messy gossip anymore. This wasn't petty sister-in-law drama. This wasn't some random family member clout chasing. This was someone who had watched everything up close. Someone who had seen it unfold step by step. Someone who had begged Cardi quietly to walk away long before the stadium cameras caught her leaving. And now that the world finally saw the ending where sister was ready to tell them exactly how the beginning went wrong, she said it like she had memorized the timeline. Like she had the dates engraved somewhere, like she had been keeping track, because she knew a day would come when silence wouldn't be enough. She talked about the late-night tension, the confusing energy, the way Card's whole mood would shift whenever Stefon's name popped up on her phone. Not because she didn't love him, but because love gets exhausting when you're the only one carrying it with boundaries. And then came the screenshots she alluded to. Snorts. The one she didn't show but hinted at. The ones she said she'd been holding for a rainy day. The ones that made the audience freeze because they knew the tone of someone who has receipts but is choosing grace. She wasn't making up stories. She was implying conversations, implying messages, implying that Stefon had been entertaining attention that wasn't innocent. Entertaining communication that crosses lines, even entertaining communication that crosses lines, even if it doesn't cross bodies. And that's the kind of cheating men never admit to. But women always feel. That was the part that sent the comment section into meltdown. Because people don't go live with that kind of confidence unless they've seen too much, unless they've heard too much, unless they've watched someone they love slowly lose themselves trying to keep a relationship alive that was dying in private. Her sister didn't sound angry. She sounded tired. She sounded like someone who had carried the truth long enough and finally let it fall out of her hands, and the internet ate it up. Screenshots of the live were everywhere within minutes. Fans dissecting every line, every expression, every phrase that hinted at hidden chaos. Theories started stacking up. People started pulling old clips, old posts, old moments from months ago, stitching together a timeline that suddenly made too much sense. Card's distant smiles, her quiet holiday posts, her sudden solo travels, her refusal to attend certain games, her avoidance of certain events, the puzzle pieces had always been there. It just took one live for people to see the whole picture. Meanwhile, Stefon stayed quiet. That's what fueled the fire even more. Silence might work when there's no proof, but silence burns when someone close to the situation starts talking. His calm wasn't helping him. It was making him look guilty. It was making him look caught. It was making him look exactly like the man her sister was describing. And then the anonymous sources started emerging. The ones that always appear when a story is big enough, hot enough, scandalous enough to make blogs start bidding for inside information. Suddenly, everyone had something to say. A friend of a friend, a team insider, a woman who claimed she knew someone involved. Of course, most of them were lying for attention. Snorts, but buried among the fake stories were a few too consistent to ignore. One source claimed Stefon had been juggling too many situations. The stress was catching up to him months before the breakup. Snorts, another, claimed he had been warned repeatedly that certain women from his past were crossing lines again. Another said Cardi had confronted him more than once about the same woman appearing in places she shouldn't have been anywhere near. And one particularly bold source claimed Stefon had slipped up during a private trip months earlier, not physically, but emotionally. And Cardi found out in a way that shattered her trust permanently. None of these could be confirmed. None were backed by proof. But the consistency in tone, the consistency in detail, the consistency in describing behavior instead of physical cheating, that's what caught people's attention because they matched the energy of what Card's sister was saying. The type of infidelity that doesn't require touching. The kind that lives in conversations, in secrecy, in emotional dishonesty, the kind that ends relationships long before anyone notices. And then came the team rumors, stories about locker room conversations, stories about teammates joking about his situations a little too loudly, stories about how some of the guys allegedly warned him to tighten up because Cardi is not someone you play with. But Stefon, according to these whispers, didn't take those warnings seriously because men rarely think they're about to lose the one woman. Well, actually helped calm their lives. But the storm kept building. Paparazzi started digging. Blogs started calling sources. The timeline got messy. Old clips resurfaced of Stefon looking distracted on the sidelines. Fans making jokes that hit differently now. People started putting together the emotional collapse and the career stress. How his personal life had been unraveling quietly for months while the pressure of the season kept building. And suddenly the Super Bowl loss looked like the least painful thing that happened to him that night. Snorts. That's when fans began questioning the pattern. How every woman who had previously been involved with him eventually hinted at the same issues. Lack of boundaries, communication gaps, emotional distance, inconsistency. A little too nice to women he shouldn't be nice to. A little too available when he should be unavailable. A little too friendly when he needed to act music taken. And when those patterns repeat, the problem isn't the women. The problem is the man. People then started highlighting Card's behavior during the last few weeks of the relationship. How calm she was, how composed, how disconnected, not angry, detached. A woman doesn't detach unless she knows something she cannot forgive. She had already reached the part where the heart gives up quietly. Her sister confirmed that with her tone, with her word choice, with the way she emphasized first, not he cheated, but he cheated first. The emphasis wasn't on betrayal. It was on sequence order. The chain reaction. The moment the relationship shifted in a way it couldn't return from. That's when everything clicked for fans. When her sister mentioned being proud of Cardi for leaving. When she mocked Stefa's loss like karma had arrived right on schedule. When she laughed like she had been waiting for the universe to finally give her sister the clarity she deserved. Her life wasn't just reaction. It was release. It was months of holding back, finally hitting the internet like a tidal wave. And as people replayed her words, you realize she didn't say anything she wasn't supposed to. She didn't expose explicit details. She didn't drag every name. She simply confirmed what Cardi couldn't say publicly, that the relationship didn't end because of rumors. It ended because of truth. A truth her sister didn't want to carry anymore. A truth that finally spilled out in the most dramatic way possible during a night when millions were watching. And Stefon's world was already falling apart on the field. And that's exactly where the real twist begins. Because the moment her sister's words settled into the internet's bloodstream, something shifted. Suddenly, this wasn't a breakup story anymore. It wasn't a celebrity split. It wasn't even gossip. It became a case study in how a woman walks away when she finally sees a man the way he actually is, not the way she hoped he'd become. And while everyone online was busy refreshing timelines, trying to guess what specific message, what specific night, what specific moment broke the relationship for good, the truth was much simpler. It wasn't a single moment. It was the accumulation, the slow drip of disappointments, the energy shift that happens when a partner stops being your peace and starts being your problem. Because once her sister said he cheated first, everything made sense. Not cheating in the dramatic tabloid sense. Not someone caught physically in the act, but cheating in the way modern relationships actually fall apart. Unread messages that suddenly matter. Loyalty that becomes selective. Attention that drifts to places it shouldn't. Emotional intimacy handed out like it's free samples at a mall. Snorts. And the internet understood immediately. The comments went wild. People started dropping their own theories, their own experiences, their own stories about how emotional cheating destroys a woman long before any physical act ever could. And while the world dissected every second of that live, Stefon's silence grew louder. It wasn't just silence anymore. It was avoidance. It was strategy. It was the kind of silence that says, if I don't speak, maybe this storm will pass. But storms never pass when the lightning keeps striking. And that night, every outlet from sports blogs to gossip channels to even mainstream news segments were analyzing the same thing. Why a man who built a career on precision couldn't maintain precision in his own personal life. Because up until that live, people still thought Cardi leaving the stadium was impulsive, heat of the moment, emotional, dramatic. But the moment her sister put her voice behind it, people realized Cardi had done what millions of women do, made the decision weeks, even months earlier, and simply waited for the right moment to exit, not explode. Exit. And when a woman exits quietly, it's already too late for apology, flowers, explanations, promises, or revisionist history. That's when the rumors about his team started boiling. People claiming there had been conversations behind the scenes, that he was distracted, that his off-field life was affecting his performance. Whispered comments from anonymous team staffers saying he wasn't locked in the way he used to be, that something was weighing on him. And now the world knew exactly what it was. The unraveling of a relationship he thought would stay quiet. Because professional men always think personal drama will stay invisible. But it never does. Not when the woman involved is one of the most influential people on the planet. With a sister who is emotionally incapable of minding her business. And as more people stitched together the timeline, they started pointing at the Christmas separation, the awkward distance, the fact that Cardi avoided appearing anywhere near his family holiday drama, the baby mama tensions, the rules being enforced on her children if they were to visit, the conditions, the boundaries, the I don't want my child there unless I am present demands. And everyone saw the Super Bowl as the grand finale of a fireworks show that had been lighting up behind closed doors for weeks. Then fans began recirculating an interview Stefon did months earlier where he talked about trust, privacy, and keeping things low-key. At the time, it sounded like a mature man setting boundaries. Now it sounded like a man who didn't want people seeing cracks in his armor. Because when the comments section took over, they dragged him without mercy. People started calling him worse than Offset, worse than Future, worse than any man who publicly embarrasses. The woman who leveled up their entire life by simply standing next to them. And the comparisons hurt him. They hurt his reputation more than the breakup, because being compared to Offset, the man whose mistakes Cardi spent 7 years surviving, was the one storyline he couldn't outrun. Cardi hadn't just chosen him to move on. She chose him to heal, to feel safe, to feel valued, to feel respected in a way she hadn't felt in years. And when that man starts showing even a fraction of the same patterns as the man she escaped, that's when the relationship dies quietly. That's when the heart checks out. That's when the future evaporates. So when her sister laughed, that specific laugh, the "I told her this would happen" laugh, the internet knew she wasn't laughing at Stefon's loss on the field. She was laughing at the poetic timing, the universe syncing his worst professional moment with his biggest personal consequence. Losing the game, losing the fight, losing the woman who actually defended him online when she didn't have to. At this point, blogs began reporting that people in Card's circle had been encouraging her to leave long before the breakup went public. But she stayed. She stayed because she wanted to believe he meant what he said. She stayed because she didn't want another failed relationship plastered across headlines. She stayed because women like her don't walk away until the last string snaps. And according to her sister, that snap happened weeks before the Super Bowl. She just waited for the right moment to step out without saying a word. Then the bigger twist dropped. Fans noticed Stefon's past patterns resurfacing. Women he used to entertain suddenly popping back into the picture. Old followers mysteriously reappearing. Cryptic posts from women he had been linked to before. Suddenly, people were connecting dots that no one had paid attention to when the relationship first started because now they looked like signs, warnings, red flags that Cardi either didn't see or chose to ignore because she genuinely believed this relationship was different. And just like that, the narrative flipped. People began defending Cardi, not as a victim, but as a woman who finally realized she was too valuable to be suffering quietly behind luxury doors. Her sister put that into one sentence. She left because he did her dirty before she ever did him dirty. And when someone close to the situation speaks with that level of certainty, the public listens. But the real explosion happened when people started questioning Stefon's future professionally and personally. Not because a breakup ruins careers, but because reputation does. And when the conversation becomes, did he cheat on Cardi? Whether emotional or physical, the stain remains. The internet doesn't wait for evidence. The internet builds evidence. The internet invents patterns. The internet declares guilt before the man even drafts a statement. And that's where the pressure cooker began. Rumors of team concerns, PR discussions, advisors telling him to get ahead of the story, coaches trying to figure out if this drama would overshadow his next season. Fans debating if he could mentally bounce back. Because once a scandal blends with sports commentary, it becomes a permanent part of the athlete's storyline. They play with that weight. They travel with that weight. They snorts face press conferences with that weight. All while Cardi was reportedly unbothered, living her life, laughing in videos, filming with friends, posting soft but shady captions that the internet ate like dessert. Snorts didn't look heartbroken. She looked relieved, like she had evacuated a burning building and was finally breathing again. And that's what made her sister's live even more powerful. She didn't expose the scandal. She explained the freedom. She explained why Cardi walked away with her head high while Stefon walked away with headlines. She confirmed what fans said the moment Cardi walked out that stadium. Snorts. This wasn't a breakup. This was a graduation. Cardi leveling up emotionally. Cardi choosing herself. Cardi realizing she didn't survive Offset's chaos just to babysit Stefon's. And as the story kept trending, every platform came to the same conclusion. The moment her sister said he cheated first, the narrative ended, the debate ended. The speculation ended because whether emotional or physical, the betrayal existed. And once a woman is done, she's done permanently. That is the point where the world finally understood why Cardi left silently. And why her sister spoke loudly. They can spin it however they want. They can pretend the timing was wrong. The emotions were high. The public didn't understand the full picture. But the truth is never polite, never strategic, never scheduled. The truth drops whenever it wants, however it wants. And tonight it dropped straight out of Card's own bloodline. If Stefon thought silence would save him or PR statements would shield him or the internet would eventually move on, he clearly forgot who he was dealing with. Snorts Card's world doesn't move on. It moves louder. And now the question isn't why she left. The question is how much more hasn't been said yet. How many screenshots are sitting in a phone waiting to ruin somebody's Monday morning? How many burner accounts are sitting on truths that could crack open the entire sports world? How many insiders are holding back the final details that nobody was ever supposed to hear? Because make no mistake, what you heard today is just the beginning. If you want the next leak, the next twist, the next truth they're terrified you'll hear, you already know what to do. Subscribe, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and stay locked in. The next bombshell is already loading.